Okay, so this is basically chapter 15, the first part. Y'all will have the second part with your presentations. But we're looking at reform, and we're going to come to reform every 100 years. What does the word reform mean? To change, to make better, to fix. And a lot of this stems from our writers. We're going to see people like Emerson, Thoreau. They're going to adopt a new movement that's called transcendentalism. And I'm going to read the definition of transcendentalism. And I want you to tell me, are these people optimists or pessimists? They stress goodness in all people, the importance of making life worthwhile, intuition, and the glorification of nature. Are they optimists or pessimists? Optimists. They really believe that you could go and think in nature about the problems of the world and go out there and be one with your thoughts. And by being one with your thoughts and thinking through it, you could come up with a solution. So these people are going to go out into nature. They're going to form utopian societies where they're going to think about the problems of the world and try to fix it. Do you think they're going to be successful? No, I talked about John Humphrey Noyes is one of these perfectionists, these transcendentalists that goes out, and we know that nothing comes from it because a lot of people are thinking but they're not doing. Okay? And so this transcendentalism brings into the Second Great Awakening, and I'm going to explain this, but I have to look back at this. Every 100 years we come to a religious revival. We know in the 1630s our Puritans came over because they wanted to purify the church, right? But how was their God? Was God just giving everybody a ticket to heaven? No. Did they have to do good deeds, or did they just have to wait for salvation? The wait, right? God sent that elect experience, right? And so we know that they believed in predestination. God had it who was going to heaven and who was going to hell, right? But we're also always going to go to a scientific area. We have intellectualism. Then we talked about the First Great Awakening. This was the one where I talked about sinners in the hands of the angry God, that God was holding you over the pits of hell like some loathsome spider. Did God still control your salvation? Yes, right? You couldn't do good deeds. That is going to change because we move into an Enlightenment era. Enlightenment, the deists basically believe that God created the world. He created man to be smart enough to be able to govern himself. Doesn't that sound like what we saw in the American Revolution about why they needed to be able to control their government? This will then lead us to another church called the Unitarian Church. And I'm just thinking all of us are God-fearing people and we go to church on Sunday. Most of us believe in the Trinity, right? The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Well, the Unitarian Church, do you think they believe in the Trinity? No, they just believe God is one dude. And they believe God is, sorry, one dude, one omnipotent dude, okay? But they believe that God is a loving God. God wants salvation for everyone, not just those destined, like we've seen, for heaven. Is this God a little bit more accepting? Yes. And this God, eventually, the Unitarian Church, along with the Transcendentalists that believe everybody is essentially what? Good, right? These two churches and the Transcendentalist movement will affect the Deist Church, the Unitarian Church, and Transcendentalism will eventually affect our Second Great Awakening. And this goes to what our modern churches are, about being saved, right? When you go to church, they often say for you to be saved, you must accept the Lord in your heart, right? And also, I know this sounds like church. I'm sorry for to make it sound like church today. But for you to go do good things in your community, right? To take on something. All of those ideas actually come from the Transcendentalists and the Unitarian Church and deism, that people are capable of good. People are capable of change. So our Second Great Awakening really shapes our churches today. We're going to see that this is a religious revival that will sweep through New York all the way through the Americas. They're going to stress that salvation, for you to get to heaven, is a democratic experience. You just don't wait on some guy to tell you you are going to heaven. You go out there and you do it through your actions. Isn't that what whoever it is in your church that is leading y'all tells y'all daily? That go out there and make the best day for you, but also to do it in a loving way. Okay? Sorry that we're having church this morning. Okay? We're going to see that one could perfect their soul, and we could perfect our environment, and we're going to start looking at our environment and looking at the evils within in our environment. And one of them is slavery. There's going to be other things such as what's going on in the prison system, alcoholism, domestic violence. They're going to start looking out at all the ills of society and wanting to fix it. So we're going to have giant revivals. I want you to look at this chart. What two religions get the most, just by the color? Who gets the most followers? Methodists and Baptists. And one of the crazy things that will happen in this church is, remember, they tell people to look at their sins, right? What is bad in society. And the Methodist and Baptist church, they actually divide up at this time because they're going to look at slavery. And the Northern Methodists are going to say that is a sin. But the Southern Methodists are going to say it's perfectly all right. They're going to justify in the Bible. And the same thing with the Northern Baptists and the Southern Baptists. Have y'all heard those names before and wonder why it was Northern and Southern? Is because they divide up in the Second Great Awakening over the issue of slavery. What people do you think are they? Are they common man or very rich people that are part of those churches? If they're getting common man, this is where most growth is. So churches will reorganize along class lines. They're going to split over the issue of slavery. And one of the craziest things is that our churches will first split up over slavery, then our political parties will split up over slavery, and then finally by 1860, our union will spread over at the issue of slavery. We're going to see new churches. I already talked about the Unitarian Church. The Mormon Church, I think there's two people. One who has Brigham Young, and who has Joseph Smith. Joseph Smith. Joseph Smith, which we're going to find out, is going to create a whole new church. He's going to be given some golden plates. He's going to translate them into the Book of Mormon. And we're going to see a lot of people are going to dislike not the new church, but the way that the Mormons voted. So let me just explain. I don't know if y'all know what block voting is, but we're going to do it here. Let's just say someone in our class is running for homecoming king. Let's just say it is Joseph. And us as a class, we all say we will get behind him. And then Sarah says, I will get the band behind you. Is Joseph going to win when he gets the band behind him? Yes, because there's like 300 of them, right? And counting, because they keep on multiplying. Right? When the band block votes, will that allow someone to win? And that's what the Mormons were doing in their communities in Indiana, Ohio, and Illinois. Is they were coming in as a religion and voting for one candidate. And that often led to other people saying, well, if they vote together, do we really have democratic liberties? No. If the band got all together every single time, right, and voted for one candidate, the band would probably beat everyone in the school, right? Because the band, is there any other institution that is as big as their following? No. Huh?
All of the athletics.
Oh, if athletics came together, right? Oh, that would be very powerful, because I think that's like, there's like 700 people or something. If all the athletics, freshman, sophomore, that's true. If they came and block voted behind the quarterback, if he was running for king, Joseph would no longer be our king. Okay? But do y'all get what block voting is now?
That is what happened.
Okay, that is what happens.
That's how Campbell won.
That's how, I had no clue who won.
Campbell.
Okay, so the whole athletics program got behind him, so that's block voting. So do y'all get block voting? Do y'all get why the Mormons were not liked? Okay, and so eventually Joseph Smith, he is in prison. He will be taken down. And then this is what leads to them realizing that they need to move west. And we will see Brigham Young will be the Moses that takes him to Utah. Okay, this next group, it's kind of weird because actually they're called the Seven-Day Adventists today. But back then, the reason why they had to change their name to the Seven-Day Adventists is because the Adventists believed that God was going to come to the world on October 22nd, 1843, and people would go to heaven. And today is like October 22nd, I promise. He's not coming. And so because he didn't come, they had to change their name to the Seven-Day Adventists, because on Sunday, you get your Jesus on, right? Okay? Sorry. Okay. Missionaries, again, a lot of this missionaries will come out of this movement thinking that they could go in and change things, and we're going to see this will eventually lead us to relations when we get to imperialism in China. I already talked about the Methodist and Baptist is growing. There may be two people in our class who have Charles Granston Finney and Lyman Beecher. These are going to be the most renowned revivalist preachers. And again, all of this is going to influence the reform movement, but there's other things that are going to influence it. First off, with the increase in manufacturing, people have money in their pocket, and with money in your pocket, you could do reform. The second thing, there's going to sweep America is this optimism that we could perfect nature. Also, as we move west, more men are going to be able to garner the right to vote, and by even having the right to vote, they're going to ask their government for moral reform. We're going to see that the panics, we saw one in 1819 over land speculation. We're going to see one in 1837 over the banks. People start to realize that there's a pattern. And if we could figure out this pattern, we could prevent it from happening. It won't work. We'll have a panic every 20 years, 1819, 1837, 1857, 1877, 1897. It'll happen every 20 years. But they really think that you could look at this patterns and prevent it. It won't happen. Y'all read about this in 8th grade, romantic writers. And romantic writers are very dark. They're very dark and creepy, but they always in the center of their readings, there's like this inner light, this inner goodness. In the y'all remember reading The Raven? Yes. It was very dark. But in there, he talks about the essential goodness of nature, the essential goodness of people. And it's this whole writing movement that's going to reflect that people should look at what's going on around them and bring that light to them. The other things that we're going to be looking at is the Industrial Revolution that is happening. It's called the Market Revolution. And what the problem in the cities, the crime, disease, and poverty. And people are going to start to look at these places and say, what can we do to perfect them? And the last group is women. It is these women who will become the minions of the movement. A lot of you have them as our reformers. They're going to start to look at their roles as women, a part of that cult of domesticity, that they need to take care of their kids. But if society's so grim on the outside, do they need to challenge that society to make it good for their kids? And so women are beginning to question things that are harmful to their family, such as the lack of education. So I don't know who has Horace Mann or William McGuffey in our class, but those will be reformers saying that we need to bring education to all. I don't know who has Neil McDowell or the Coldwater Army, but those will be the people who are going to challenge alcoholism in America. Criminal activity in the insane asylum. Did anybody have Dorothea Dix? No? You would remember if you had it? Okay. But she's going to look at how we keep our mentally ill in the same places as we keep prisoners. And so this will lead to the movement of having, have you ever heard of the School of the Deaf, the School of the Blind? Yes, those will come out of this movement because we're keeping those people in prisons. And Dorothea is saying, look, mentally ill and criminal are two separate venues. We're going to see that people, I don't know how many of you had Frederick Douglass or Nat Turner or Theodore Weld or the Grimke sisters, but people are going to start to look at the evils of slavery and become part of our abolitionist movement. The last thing is women realize through this whole movement, they don't have rights. A lot of them will be abolitionists, and they're going to go to the London Anti-World Slavery Conference, and they're not going to be allowed in. When they're not allowed in, because they say that they do not have the right to vote, they come back to America to form Seneca Falls Convention to demand for their equal rights, specifically in voting. So our reform movements, and I have one more thing to discuss on this one. We're going to see temperance, which is getting rid of alcohol. Will it be successful in this time period? No, it is until 1920. Prison and asylum reform, yes, they're going to get some changes. The abolitionist movement, will it be successful in this time period? Do we get some amendments to come down the road to deal with this? Yes, but we know that would their lives change that much? We're going to get to that in Reconstruction. Education, is it going to change? Utopian communes, do you think they're going to be successful? Women's rights, do you think that they're going to be able to obtain it at this time? Not till the 1920s. Okay, do y'all know what the word eclipse means? Okay, when something covers up, what issue do you think here is going to cover up all other issues? Slavery. Abolitionism. I'm promising you this will be a test question on the next test, and I'm addressing it now because people, they're like, what does eclipse mean? Eclipse means it's going to cover. What issue here is going to cover all other issues? Slavery. All right.